Welcome to Behind the SME, the podcast where we dive into the stories of founders, leaders, and visionaries of small and medium-sized enterprises. As the CEO of a small business myself, I want to uncover what drives the success of SMEs by talking to those who are in the trenches, building their businesses from the ground up. I hope you enjoy the episode. Michael, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So I normally start by explaining how we know each other. Turns out we probably met before we met because you're one of the original early Opus members.
Yes.
Back when I was heavily involved in Opus, so we probably crossed loads of paths multiple times. But
yeah, it's funny that we actually have never met in person.
Never met in person, but I appreciate you spending some time with us today. Lots to run through. I think what you're building is really cool, so super excited about hearing a load more about Community Wolf, the project. I've got loads of questions about some of the tools that you use, how you monetize it, just loads to run through. But your journey to get to Community Wolf is really interesting. So maybe let's start there and give us a bit of a rundown of what you've been up to and how you've reached the point of starting your own business.
Yeah, so maybe I think what's interesting is my journey's kind of, everyone will say their journey's been unique, but mine's been kind of me bumbling around trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I think if I look back, I'm proud of the way that I pivoted quickly and just learned as fast as I could and then made decisions and kind of went where it felt right. But I left uni, I went into engineering, but tried to go to America. So I always had this like drive. I want to, live out the American dream. That always appealed to me. And I think that's that concept of you can do anything like that. That appeals to me. Whether or not that actually is what happens when you live in America or not was irrelevant. That coincided with Trump's sort of first term when he was running, and it made it very difficult for me to get over there. And I ended up in the UK, and I actually made a mistake on my application and applied to the wrong department and ended up being an engineer in fire engineering. And luckily that kind of taught me a whole lot of skills about dealing with people and teams that are of different nationalities and skill sets, and got exposed to some really cool projects. And somewhere along that journey, I got introduced to AI and just became really obsessed with it and left that and kind of then went into starting my own businesses. Yeah, but just to cut a long story short, I've just been obsessed with building stuff, to be honest. That's really where the whole journey kind of emanates from.
So you were at AECOM, it's a big engineering firm in the fire division for a while.
Yeah.
Is that right? What's it like working in a big old business like that?
Yeah, different to working in a startup for sure. But very uniquely, the fire engineering team in London was much smaller. There were only 30 of us. And when I joined, a few people left, and I was just a youngster with kind of a yes man attitude, and whatever came up, I was like, I'll give it a go. And I didn't even study fire engineering, and I just was obsessed with becoming the best fire engineer possible. And I just said yes to everything, and I said yes to all the projects that the older, more senior people didn't want to do, and that put me in good faith with the right people, and I moved my way up through that business very quickly. And I guess the reason I kind of went into entrepreneurship was because I kind of just got bored. I was like, felt like I was hitting the ceiling and I needed a change. So that's when I pulled the ripcord and jumped out there.
I would imagine you haven't been bored since.
No. Like Nick and I always talk about this. My co-founder, like I feel like I'm trying to optimize, not bored.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's a better way of saying that, but if there's something I'm just trying to not get is like, if I'm not bored, I'm really happy.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to optimize not boredom, I think, for the most part.
Yeah. I remember having left big business to start up Kene. It was like thawing out loads of emotions. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Way of putting it.
The wins were much bigger. The losses were way bigger.
Yeah.
It was like everything was in HD all of a sudden.
Yeah. Everything feels like a tidal wave.
Yeah.
There's like no little ripples.
Yeah. I think that's probably the best way of describing it. But there's quite a big shift going from a big company to running your own thing. Was that something you always wanted to do?
My dad and my mom, actually, to her credit and his credit, they've always really been entrepreneurs. They've always had their own businesses and tried their own things. And I think that always appealed to me in some way, shape or form. And actually a little bit, if I look back, I'm kind of disappointed I didn't do it sooner. But I think all the lessons you learn and, the safety belt of being in a corporate, again, like back to the point, I had a small team and I was afforded like leadership positions where I otherwise probably wouldn't have got it if I was in a big team. So I kind of felt like the fire team was a little bit like a startup. We had a little bit of a longer lead, and we could try some new stuff, and so maybe that was the stepping stone to moving into entrepreneurship. But I've grown up around it my whole life, so it felt right. But that will never prepare you, and you can say, like, it's way harder than you think it is. It's way harder. Like, naively, I thought, oh, I'll just leave ACOM and, I'll go into crypto and tech, and like within a couple of years I'll be a millionaire. Like, I genuinely 100% believe that, and like I couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah. What do you think helps with the balance between the naivety needed to start a business, but the wisdom needed to sustain in the longer term?
I think naivety gives you the benefit of being able to learn stuff, well, whether it's for the first time or not, but to learn quickly. And if you can find joy in being naive about something and find joy in learning about it and becoming an expert in the problem, I guess that's what we're all trying to become, is like experts in the problem space that we're in. I think for me, that's where I get a lot of joy about, like, my existence is like I get joy from that, the whole learning and becoming obsessed with something. And so plus not knowing the journey, I think helps you a lot, because you don't put up all these mental barriers in front of you, because the world will put the barriers up for you. Like, things are going to happen that, that you're just going to have stuff that pops up that you can't possibly plan for. So not knowing that they're coming is actually quite beneficial, certainly in a startup, I think. And when I guess, and to the point of wisdom to keep going, I don't know if you ever become wise enough that you stop learning, I suppose. I don't know. I'm not there, put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I'm still in the naivety, running around like a headless chicken, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I think I've said this a couple of times, but I do think that starting a small business should come with a health warning.
Yeah.
It is more all-consuming than you anticipate, for sure.
Especially if you, I think, especially if you're hyper competitive. I think, like, maybe we'll get to this later. It's like your innate things that you have inside you. I think if you are hyper competitive about stuff, or super driven, or have ambition, maybe those are all words for the same thing, then I think it should come with a health warning of some kind.
Yeah.
Across your health and your family and your relationships, like, stuff does take a hit.
Yeah. You do have to be prepared to go, this is the thing I'm going to think about when it's 2 a.m. and I can't sleep, and when I'm on a beach, and when I'm in the car, and when I'm listening to a podcast, I'm going to apply it back to this. I remember watching a Dragon's Den pitch, and the product was these vinyls that they put on top of bins. Right, so it made a street that had ugly bins when, on bin day, pretty. And it was a simple product, nice, neat little business. And the dragon was like, look, I can see the business case for it, but I just don't want to be involved in that type of business. Straight up, I'm not interested in it. It could be the most profitable business in the world, but it doesn't excite me. And that was, must have been 15 years ago I watched that, but that really stuck with me, that need for the thing that you want to do and plan on doing to really get you up in the morning.
We call it happy bucket, Nick and I, and we always joust over kind of whether or not you find joy from the output like the outcome of something, or do you find joy or happiness from the process of applying, like, your innate set of things that you like doing. Like, I don't know, like, I like ideating on stuff, and other people just don't find that, that's not something that they find easy or they can't do. But I think I find joy in ideating over just about anything. Like, I can ideate over the camera tripod, or how to, like, I know I don't have to find joy about the tripod itself, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, that person doesn't get joy from making bins look pretty, but other people might, I think that's kind of the...
Yeah, fair play. And then
happy bucket.
There's some diversity there. Happy bucket is a great way of describing it. And I guess it's about understanding yourself and what fills your cup, what makes you happy, to be able to work out what you're going to do with that business. But I think I strongly urge anybody who's listening, thinking, I could start a small business, or maybe they're thinking about launching a product, or they're at kind of a crossroads and a big decision. What's the thing that they really enjoy doing, and does that decision lean into that or not? It's a really basic fundamental question, but I think often we're driven by the wrong thing. Maybe it's the pride or the financial motivator, or how it might look to others. But actually, you got to interrogate within and go, is that the thing which I'm going to enjoy doing for the next X number of years? Because if it's not there, then it just becomes really hard work.
Yeah. I kind of like back to the point of, I think you might enjoy doing the thing, but try go one level deeper. Like, what about doing the thing do you actually enjoy? Like, do you enjoy the competition of doing something? Like, I think sports people, they like their sport, but I think they're very competitive, and like that's the kick that they get out of it, alongside the fact that they actually enjoy the sport. Whereas, I like thinking about the future and coming up with ideas that you could solve stuff. Like, that's where I get a joy out of it. I don't get that much joy in planning stuff, like almost none. And so the fact that like sucks the life out of me to try plan something. So I don't know. It's like to try and lessons that I've learned about myself, to try and separate the two from each other, like the act of doing something and then the actual thing itself.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm a planner. Yeah. I like the planning part. I like the milestones along the journey. Less interested in the goal itself. I wouldn't even say I was that competitive, interestingly, but I like the challenge, and I like seeing things kind of evolve and develop, and that then led to that, and we just won this, and it's like, it's amazing. It's like the plan is working is the bit that gets me amped, not necessarily we're beating that person or that company. You see what I mean?
Yeah, so it's like the art of the strategy or the plan coming together.
Yeah. Hey, in your bio, you talked about spending some time in the US doing summer camps.
Yeah.
You were running or helping over on summer camps. How many did you do?
I did 4 in the end, and it was kind of, I've loved being on the water, and we were talking before the show, I was in Croatia, and like I just want to be on the water, and I want to be on a boat if I could be on a boat. And I grew up in a place called Nice in South Africa, and I spent most of my childhood like water skiing or on the water, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was at uni in Edinburgh, and a friend of mine was like, you should go work in America at a summer camp. And I was like, a summer camp? Can you do that? And he's like, yeah, go teach water skiing. And I looked it up, and 45 minutes later I'd submitted an application, and I got accepted into a camp. And I remember it so clearly. I got accepted into a camp in Michigan, and it was a Jewish summer camp. And I remember phoning my mom, like panicked. I was like, I'm not Jewish. Like, I can't work at a Jew. I don't know anything about Judaism, and like I'm so scared of offending people and whatever. And my mom was like, do you have to be Jewish to work at this camp? And I went through this whole thing, and it ended up being one of the best things I ever did, because I went to a big summer camp, religious summer camp, not to the point where it's like Orthodox anything, but I just learned how to be completely myself in a place where I was so uncomfortable. Like, when you work at a summer camp, it's 24 hours a day. And for me, it was 24 hours a day in a different country, with a different culture. And then you layer on like a completely different religion that you're so foreign to. And I learned so much about myself, probably more than any other time in my life, because you couldn't turn off, because you were 24 hours a day. And those people that were around us that tried to fake it and be the cool person and whatever, like, you very quickly just find out that you're just being fake. Like, that's not who you actually are.
Yeah.
And that's way worse for you. And I learned that very quickly. I learned that only because of summer camp, and it probably would have taken me much longer to kind of be put in that place. So that's that, amongst also like you work with a bunch of kids, obviously, and then you have people who are just out of high school or in early days of university, and they're we're all kids, so you learn how to like work with people who aren't as mature. And it was just a really cool experience for me, and I think that's where I think a lot of my like leadership, like desire to be a leader, came from, was like being at summer camp and working with a bunch of different people.
It's so important. Those early 20s are so formative, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think treating your 20s as just an extension of academia is such a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I think anybody trying to get ahead in their career at that point and not prioritizing the skills that they're acquiring is missing a bit of a trick, because it's a long old career. Do something and find the thing that you really enjoy, and try and refine your skills, and maybe the rest will come later.
And maybe I would love to know your take on it, but if you can shorten the amount of time between coming out of school and figuring out who you are, I know it sounds corny, but like figuring out actually how you view the world, and the people that you want to be around, and the people you like working with, and the people you don't like working with, and the way that you like to portray yourself. I think all of that stuff, the sooner you can do that, and for some people, sadly, that takes them 20 years, 30
Yeah.
years. Some people die never actually having been true to themselves. And like, if you can do that, and I don't know if there's a magic formula. For me, it was going to summer camp and being very uncomfortable. That was my mechanism for doing it.
Yeah. For me, that's always been a process of elimination. So spending time in an environment and then going,
Not for me.
not for me. You know, move on, next environment. Okay, I really like that element, don't like that element, not for me, move on.
But you have to be willing to be uncomfortable, which I think a lot of people are not willing to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and get through the learning crap
Yeah.
part where
Yeah.
your enthusiasm's gone, but you're not skillful yet. And you have that long period where you're just dissatisfied and you've got to graft through that point. I benefited from the being hand to mouth for a long period. And so often it was a case of, wait, you've got no choice here, Adam. Yeah, you've got to graft through this bit because you've got a rent check at the end of the month or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then you know the skills come and the enjoyment comes later. Yeah, let's talk about Community Wolf. So I want to get into this part because there's an entrepreneurial journey prior to this, but I think Community Wolf is super interesting. So tell us a little bit about how this idea came about and what the business does.
So we started Wolf last year in September. So that would be September 2024. And Nick, my co-founder, to his credit, he had just come out of another business trying to solve another big South African, but also African problem, which is, you know, access to power, energy. And South Africa, for those listening, you know, we had and are having issues with power. You know, we have a company called Eskom, and power outages are like just a thing that people live with. And so he tried to solve that problem, give people access to batteries and solar power, etc. So he's very passionate about these problems that are just innate to South Africa. And if we use Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like that is one of them, like having access to energy and power, a house over your head, education, and then safety is like a big thing in South Africa. And as he was exiting that company, he spent some time in a big private security business in South Africa. And they sort of lifted the hood for him, and he came out of that call and he called me and he's like, I think that there's something here. Like, this is just so inefficient. And you know, stuff is, if you go into a control room in a private security business, it's like MS-DOS 1995, blue screens and hard bezeled edges. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, it's not smart, which is what you think should be. It's not like the movies where there's just screens and beautiful. Like, some of them are like that, but for the most part, the software that they're running on is awful. And that kicked off Nick. And Nick he's an obsessed of a human as I've ever met, and he just got really obsessed with this idea of like, how do we solve this problem? And at one of the cause of this problem of safety in South Africa is that there is just disproportionate participation in public safety. The rich have it and the poor don't. There is massive distrust in police, and we don't have a publicly available or even a private data set that can tell you where crime is likely to happen, because we just don't record this information in any meaningful way. So Nick and I set off on one weekend to build the first prototype of Community Wolf, which was just to give every South African the ability to participate in public safety. And for us, that was the obvious choice, was let's just build it on WhatsApp so that there's no barrier to participating.
Sure.
And the idea was to build this data set up by having people report what they see, crime, suspicious activity, and otherwise, and then sell that data to private security businesses and police and governments and insurers and whatever. And we can talk on how we've pivoted and moved and evolved over the years. But that's the origin was, provide free tooling to everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
And let's talk about how it's pivoted, because that's moved on quite a bit from that original. The mission's the same, I think I'm right in saying. But the way in which you're executing on the mission has changed.
Yeah, I think directionally we've always tried to maintain obsession with acquiring a data set that nobody else has, and doing that in a way that lifts participation equally on both sides of the spectrum. And what I mean by both sides is you have massive private security businesses in South Africa. There's more private security guards than there are police. There's like 20,000 private security businesses in South Africa. It's a massive industry. It's one of the biggest industries in South Africa, if not the biggest. And then you have everybody, the civilians, the people, you and me. and we wanted to provide free tools to them and acquire a data set. And kind of, the analogy I use is they use our tools in exchange for data about what's actually happening. And then we built a platform on top of that data. And we sell an intelligence layer to private security business and municipalities and cities. And along that journey, we started being invited into the rooms where other problems emerged in private security businesses, things like having access to affordable hardware to scan people into buildings or to check license discs or license cards and whatever. So we just built all that tech and put it inside of WhatsApp. Mm-hmm. And now we're competing with juggernauts of the industry that require you to have hardware, iPads, scanners. And we just say, like our saying is, the hardware you need is already on site. So
yeah,
you've already got a phone. It already has WhatsApp. You just need our number and you have access to all the tech that you need.
So let's bring this to life a bit. So are people, they're messaging a Community Wolf number on WhatsApp saying, seeing something suspicious happening on this, or is it reading your conversations?
No, so we have kind of two ways of doing this. We have group agents. So everything's built on top of LLMs and other AI systems, and we call them agents. We probably will change the word in time, but you either have a one-to-one agent that's Community Wolf, and that is a single number. It's like texting your friend.
Yeah.
You, for the most part, report crimes, suspicious activities in your first language, video, voice, all the standard LLM kind of jargon. There's other things like having your location monitored, creating areas where you want to get alerted, but it's all on WhatsApp, to your point, all to help people participate and share what they're actually seeing, suspicious or otherwise. And that's the basics of Community Wolf, is something like that. And now we've started dipping our toe into armed response as well. So if you're if we're somewhere in Cape Town and we're having lunch and something's going down, you can use us and panic, and armed response will be there in 3 minutes. Or you're at the beach and your friend has a heart attack, you can use us and we'll send medical response. It's all just trying to bring the public safety sphere all into one place.
Sure.
Under one roof, yeah.
So you're crowdsourcing the data gathering.
Yeah, like Waze.
Like Waze, yeah. That was the business model I was thinking about.
It's funny, whenever I have these conversations, always after the fact, I'm like, I should have just said Waze. Waze has really been the model we've gone off of. It's just, how do you get a community to participate for the benefit of all?
Do you know what I love about the Waze story is, and I don't know how many people know this, but if you drove down a road as the first Waze user driving down that road, the road's not there.
Mm.
As in, they map the roads by driving down roads, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I thought that was just trying to get my head around that. I was thinking that's wild. Obviously, you're crowdsourcing the map generation, and obviously later then it's traffic and incidents and alike. But the first maps were, and that's the way they made it free, because the original purchase of the maps was the big barrier to entry, and that's why TomTom and alike had such high prices. Yeah,
that's very interesting.
It was just I just love the idea of driving down a road and looking at Waze and it being just a grey screen.
Blank, yeah. It's like a video game where you're exploring the map.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I didn't actually know that.
So, this data has so many uses, but I'm just thinking out loud. Like, let's say there was a common kind of accident or crime hotspot. You're able to work with town designers, local authorities, and saying, we need extra CCTV there, or that needs lighting, that needs patrols going there more regularly. Like, how's this data being used?
Yeah, that's it's awesome that's where your head goes, because that's kind of where our intuition goes as well. Is like, if you just step back and if you have a data set that no one else has, obviously that gives you an advantage as a business. That's awesome. But at like its core, whilst competition and making a bunch of money and being a great company and everything is important to us, like, we want to solve actual problems, which is these problems that we don't really know where to send resource. Like, police have a finite amount of resource, private security businesses have a finite amount of resources. They don't want to have their vehicles driving around all day every day. And if you could, with a high degree of certainty, say, under certain conditions, this is really where you should be, we felt at the beginning that that's what's most valuable. And WhatsApp was the platform and the channel we wanted to do that on first. But, even as recently today, like we talked about, it's like our focus is on data, and everything else is just a funnel to kind of get it. But, we've gone as far as had conversations with insurers and banks and real estate agents, and like, they care. People, we think when we have the data set big enough to actually be meaningful about it, they'll really care about it.
Yeah. I'm going to read you a quote from you. Right?
Okay, good.
So this is from a LinkedIn post. There's a bit more above this.
Is that context relevant?
No.
Okay.
No. But more than the product, this past year has shaped us. I've laughed, I've argued, I've doubted myself, I've cried, and I've also felt unstoppable confidence. That's the first year of building something real. Could we have more revenue by now? Sure. More users? Of course. More views? Definitely. But what we do have is something rarer. Validation that this is the right problem to solve. Proof that people will resonate with the mission. Now, the reason I want to bring that up now is because we've talked about Community Wolf for, 10 minutes roughly.
Yeah.
I've been like nudging you towards monetization and like, how does this business make money? But it's not really in your narrative set at all, which for most business leaders, they're like, we make money by doing X and this is how we do it, and the margin here. And, this is the way in which we do it. This is the type of customers that we appeal to. You've spoken about the mission and your best way of solving the mission. Monetization seems to be a later on thought for you. If you get those founding blocks right, then you'll be able to monetize it.
Yeah.
Was that intentional?
No.
Okay.
So when we started, we definitely thought, like most businesses do, and certainly my personality is that things will be much easier than they actually end up being, and I'm good at stuff. It'll just happen perfectly the first time. We thought for sure this would just catch on like a wildfire, and we would have hundreds of thousands, millions of users by now, and that would lead to this data set that would be epic, and everyone would just be like throwing cash at us to use it. Like that's what we thought. And we, when we went into early discussions with the private security businesses to sell this idea of intelligence, this data set, it's difficult to sell a data set that you don't have yet. You really are selling this idea and this vision to stuff. And because of that, we've had to go down these other routes of like the revenue generating products, which we think are on their own amazing. But at the core of it, I think what we get a kick out of is we get to have a discussion with someone where the mission doesn't resonate. And for me, for one, I think that's awesome. Two, there are many billion-dollar plus companies in the world that started with this as well. They went distribution first, and like for us, that has always been at the core. It's like, how do we get distribution? Because tech is no longer a moat. At least that's what we believe. Tech's not your moat. Distribution's your moat. Your brand is your moat. And so that's why to us, that's what's important. If we can get people, monetizing is important. We have tools that we can monetize. But at the core, like we want participation, and we want people to participate, not because we don't want people to have to pay to participate.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So
yeah. I mean, no crowd-funded model where you pay to participate really works, does it?
No.
Because it's all about volume for you.
Yeah, and like Snapchat did this. They just kept raising until they had volume, and then they turned on monetization down the road. We've been quite fortunate that we have kind of two sides of an ecosystem. We have private security businesses, and we have everybody else, the people of the world. And we can choose to monetize each of those sides, or monetize only one, or monetize, you know what I mean? Like we can be very deliberate about it. Yeah. So we're also figuring it out, as we go, which we have the benefit of doing because we have raised money and people on the mission. We raised money on this mission of acquiring a data set. We didn't raise money on single products.
Yeah, this might be an expression. If it's not, I've not heard it. It sounds like you've got mission market fit. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, actually.
If it's not an expression, then
unfortunately,
is it a real thing?
Oh, it should be.
Yeah, when you heard it here first.
It should be. Nick will love hearing that. He's very, very mission led, and we talk about this a lot. We've flipped between, and people who have started businesses with partners and co-founders and whatever. Your positions change on stuff as you learn and you grow and you experience different things. And I remember in the beginning, I was super like community first, like let's just go data and like forget about the revenue. And Nick was very much like, no, let's get these products out and start selling them. And we've kind of switched around now, and I'm sort of, we go back and forth. But I think we both believe if you've got a really big business that generates a ton of money, you can go and do whatever you want. Basically, you can spend as much time as you want gaining the distribution at the everybody level, what we like to call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're gonna copyright Mission Market Fit straight away, straight after this. So we'll get on that. No, the bit which I was looking at when I was prepping for this, that made me think about Mission and how you find that tailwind and something that resonates was the fact that you went viral, and I thought it was interesting because so many companies spend lots and lots of money and lots of thought putting together the most perfectly curated video that gets 14 views. But you went viral with a handheld shaky video that was 15 seconds long. Tell us a little bit about that. I think it's such a cool story.
Yeah, so we've been very deliberate, and like I've always liked this idea of bringing people along again, like to this idea of mission market fit. Now that you've coined it,
But keep repeating it, maybe it will become a thing.
I think it should be a thing. On that whole idea of, because remember, we're trying to get people to participate in something that they are fearful of participating in. Like it's not normal. If we lived in a little village of 20 of us, we would all participate in our public safety because your village is your safety. So you would say, I saw, I don't know, there was a pack of lions around, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel worried about saying that. But as soon as you go to millions of people, and there's repercussions for you saying stuff, and like some of the townships that we are working in, there is a real repercussion for you to say, hey, I saw so-and-so steal X. If he's a gang member, the gang member know your name, they know where you live, they come murder your whole family. Like, unfortunately, that's the reality for some of these people. So to get someone to participate, you have to get them to trust you and believe in the mission and not believe that you are just here to come and siphon money from them, which we aren't.
Yeah.
We want to provide a valuable service to enterprises, and that will make money that way. And if we provide services to the community, it'll be a service that you should pay for. But the data acquisition piece is about trust. And it's one of the things that we've struggled with as well, is like to build trust at scale is very difficult. But back to your point of the videos, we've always wanted to document the journey that we're going on and the way that we're thinking about stuff. And that means just being honest and open about what you're doing and then sharing it at scale. So like our strategy for socials, and anyone who's listening, like this is what we did, is we did a lot of podcasts like this, and we filmed a bunch of stuff, and we put a lot of content out. We were putting like hundreds and hundreds of pieces of content out every single month. And that's how we found what worked and what resonated, what messaging actually works. And then we double down on ad spend on those. And then that's the way you find out what actually wins organically. And then when you put ad spend behind it, it works really well. So we were just trying to find something to go viral, and then we would put ad spend behind it. But we moved fast, like we made loads of videos, and I've always been very comfortable. And it's not for everybody, but if you are a founder or a business owner that you want to tell your story, like put a camera down and just start telling the story. And like the saying I like to use is like, you don't need to create content. That sounds counterintuitive, but you do need to document the way that you go. You don't need to go out there trying to we're just documenting a conversation. We're not creating content here. And as soon as you kind of think of it differently like that, then it becomes way easier. Like you are living your founder life. You can document this whole day, and there's a bunch of people that would find it super interesting. And that the same can be said for a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And if you're mission led, I think that is a win.
It's a relatively new thing, isn't it? Is it called building in the open?
Building in public, yeah.
Building in public, okay, yeah. And it's warts and all. This is what my journey is.
Yeah. It's
failures of the week, successes. Yeah, it's quite a humbling.
It's super
thing
humbling
to do. What have been the things that you've noticed from building in public?
So I would say, whilst I've tried to build in public, I don't think I haven't been as true to the phrase as I should have been. Building in public on places like Twitter is like a full-time job. People on Twitter, you could follow some really cool accounts that will show you virtually feature for feature, line for line of the code that they're writing, everything, the whole journey, what failed, what didn't, customer complaint, video recorder, like the whole journey. And it's almost like the same reason why you will watch someone vlogging on the internet about their life, because like it's to some point of it, you find it interesting, either because you can't do that or whatever. So I tried to bring that onto LinkedIn, and I just don't think the LinkedIn audience loves that type of content too much. But very early on, and this is to people who are maybe fundraising, whatever, Nick and I really wanted people to buy into, because it's a mission-led business, you have to buy into the fact that we care can I swear on this podcast?
Yes.
We care a fuckload about this problem. And that was part of like the fundraising journey as well. It's like I wanted a investor to care as much about Nick and I as they cared about the problem. And if they cared about both, then epic, and they would put money behind us. And that's exactly what happened. So like building a public for me is not just about selling a product. It is, but it's more actually about selling you, like selling you. And I think that's as much of the battle, especially in these like fundraising type VC type businesses. And that's not for everybody. And not everyone's not trying to do that, but
yeah. And what you are is perfectly authentic to yourself, and people really buy into authenticity.
Yeah.
You know, and there's no point having a highly curated video talking about the safety challenges of South Africa. It just is a mismatch, right? It's better off being a shaky iPhone video, because you know, it's an imperfect world that you're documenting, and it's an imperfect problem that you're trying to solve. So the video should be imperfect.
And creating and documenting your journey is actually hard and uncomfortable. So like, why make it much harder than it already has to be? Just put the phone down and speak to it for a minute and a half. And if you are unable, if you're a business leader or a founder or whatever, staff member, if you're unable to speak about the thing that you are waking up every single day to go and do, I think you probably should be doing something else. Like you should be it's easy for me to say because I'm living my dream, but if you should be doing something that you can talk about once a week without stuttering and fluing, because it's something that you care enough about.
Yeah.
And if you can find that balance, put yourself on camera. I don't see the downside, truth be known.
Yeah.
I don't.
I saw this quote this morning as I was prepping. Obviously, I prepped days in advance, Michael, but I was doing weeks. Yeah, but I was doing some final prep this morning, and it resonated. Stress is working hard for something we don't care about. Passion is working hard for something we love. And I thought that was really interesting, because I've definitely seen both camps and felt stress. And then also felt passion. And I was thinking about you having gone from, you know, working within a completely different sector to working in a really mission-led business, and just how that quote might land with you, and the kind of contrast between stress and passion, and how actually they are probably the same feeling, just reframed with a different driving factor.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's spot on. I mean, in my own experience, I've said this for years. Like I feel like I don't get stressed, but that's because I feel like I'm fortunate enough to work in something that I love a lot. Like I get anxiety about stuff. There's no doubt about it, but I don't feel like I'm stressed out about things unless they are going absolutely pear-shaped. But for the most part, like to your point on, to wake up every day and do something that you really love, or you get a kick out of, is great. And even when the going gets tough, it doesn't feel like work. And if you can find a way to do that, then it's pretty epic, to be honest. I mean, you've probably lived through, and it's cyclical, I think. You've probably lived through a few cycles of this, of, you know, the happy bucket is absolutely full, and sometimes the happy bucket is less full because you have to do stuff. And
yeah, I mean, I started a company in the worst time. You know, if you think about, so I started in 2017. We had our founding period, and then COVID.
Yeah, tough.
And then we've had economic crisis, political crisis, AI. Like it's just been kind of one shot after the next in our world, in a really difficult regulatory environment. My inner passion comes from the output of what we do, and the clients that we get to serve. And I think when I read that quote, I was like, am I stressed or am I passionate? And sometimes I think it genuinely is stress, because of the responsibility that I have on my shoulders for the team, and, you know, supporting a large unit. And then sometimes I'm like, it's about framing it, you know, I think
framing is important.
Yeah.
I think stress is such a bad connotation to it. I think like weight is maybe a better way of putting it. Like you do have more responsibility. But to frame, I think framing of things is important, because it also affects words have a big impact on the way you feel about things.
Yeah.
And like stress and whatever other words you can think of, depress, like those words, they mean stuff. And I think if you say them, they have an impact on people. Yeah, so I best stay away from them for me, because I'm very I'm very passion and motivation driven, and like that stuff really does impact me. And so
Yeah.
whether I say I don't get stressed, whether that's actually true or not, doesn't matter to me. Actually, it's irrelevant, because
Yeah, fair. I want to talk about your team. So you and Nick sound like you complement each other really well. What do you look for, and how do you judge the kind of the strengths within your unit, within your team, immediate team, and wider team? And what tips have you got for any business leaders out there?
So but kind of to our earlier conversation, maybe tie everything together. I think it's really important to figure out who you are. And I did this I did it very early on. Before I went to university, I did something called Gallup. I'm sure everyone's heard of Gallup. Gallup's a big company. They do insights on the workplace. They have a product called Clifton Strength, I think what they call it. And I did the Clifton Strengths, I think it's 32 or 34 strengths assessment when I was just leaving high school. So I must have been, whatever, I was 18 years old or 17 or whatever. And essentially what it is, it's a bunch of questions that seem very arbitrary, a sliding scale. Do you like to be on the beach, or would you rather, go visit a museum, whatever, like a bunch of those questions.
Beach, for the record.
Yeah, definitely the beach. And at the end of it, it kind of gives you 34 strengths mapped out from, your top 10 all the way down to like your bottom ones. And I did that early on, and I used that as a base to make a decision on what degree I should go and do, because I wanted to do something that I felt like I wasn't going to get halfway through and be like, oh, I really don't like doing this because it's super analytical and I'm not very analytical, whatever.
Yeah.
And I based my whole university degree on this one thing, and it ended up being one of the best things I ever did. And so in all the businesses I've started so far, I did this with my co-founders. And when I first did it, I didn't have the luxury of having ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to dump all the stuff into and talk to it. But now you do, and Nick and I both did it, and we have a lot of overlapping skills. We have a lot of complementary skills, and we have a few competing skills, like competing viewpoints of the world. And that's where tensions have flared up, and where we work really well together. That's been because these things complement each other. And so we did this with most of our team now, and certainly for Nick and I, being founders of a business, and I'm sure you kind of have maybe similar feelings to me, it's really important to know certain things about the people that you're working with. And I know a lot of people don't like the idea of being boxed into, pigeonholed into this is who you are and this is who you aren't. But if you can know something, and even if it's 20% accurate about the person you're going to dedicate the next 10 years of your life to, that's so well worth your time than it is to know absolutely nothing and be guessing. Because one, people are really bad at explaining who they are and the way that they want to actually operate in the world. And it's quite nice to have it in black and white. And again, even if it is 20% accurate, that's still better than absolute zero. So, I have a few GPTs that have my strengths, Nick's strengths, Jess's strengths. And when certain situations pop up, I'll run it by that, because I'll be like, I want to say this. What do you think? For me, it's been just for myself, it's been quite nice, because I know there's some things that I just don't get a kick out of, or I will make a snap judgment on something, but that's just innate to me. Like I deal a lot with gut, like that's just who I am. And I've always been like that. And Nick is a little bit different to me, and he is very analytical, and that's where our strengths complement, but that's also where we butt heads, because I will just make a snap, I'll be like, I think this is what we should do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. We did something interesting in the leadership team last year called the Manual of Me, whereby in a similar vein, we ran an exercise. I think it's a free thing online if you look up Manual of Me, and it asks you a load of questions about how you like to work.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like, if you were to make a big decision and you'd rather do it in the morning or the afternoon, type of thing. And for me, my best brain is in the morning. Like I think I'm better at decision making first thing, whereas the afternoon I'm more into kind of routine administrative tasks. But my COO had some really interesting kind of feedback, which said she likes to think about things in advance of a meeting. So if a new agenda item comes up in a meeting, she gets really flustered by it. She doesn't like it. She wants to be able to reflect on it in advance.
Yeah.
My chief of staff likes to reflect on things once she's been given information. So me is a bit more kind of, what's the best way of saying this? Spontaneous. There you go. There's a positive way. Yeah, I'll be like, oh, guys, we really need to think about this.
Yeah.
And I've just annoyed 2 people in the room.
Yeah.
And so it was just one of those really useful kind of pieces of learning about each other, which says if we need to tackle something, get it on the agenda early with an explainer so that different personality types can attack it in a different way.
Yeah.
And just a really helpful exercise to do with people, like you said, you spend a lot of time working with. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as business owners or leaders or team leaders or managers or whatever, like your job in some way, shape or form is to get the most out of people. And hopefully you're a good leader and you're getting the most out of people in a way that's genuine and not, like trying to get the most out of someone for, all other reasons. And for me, being able to look at people in a way that's easy to understand and you can read it and you can, again, like I can't stress that the benefit of being able to drop a 35-page, thousands of word document into a PhD level reasoner and be able to talk through it is like, it's quite incredible.
Mad, yeah.
And even when we were hiring our last hiring round, when we hired someone into a leadership position, like to sit around the table with Nick and I, like we put all the main candidates, their Clifton strengths assessments, which we did as part of the hiring process, into one with us, and we talked through it. Like, how would this impact us, and do they complement us? And
so you made an agent where you educated it with your profiles and said what are the potential clashes, and that's why.
And I have it now. I have one for myself. I have one for Nick. I have one for me and Nick. I have one for all 3 of us. We have this stuff at your doorstep, and it's like it costs for anyone listening. It will cost £60 or £50, I think it is, to get a Clifton strength assessment done. If you have a small leadership team, go and get everybody done on their site. You can map them all together, and it's 4 colors for the most part. And you can see, like, if you have as an example, if you have a leadership team full of green, and green is ideation and looking at the future, you're missing a lot of the other stuff that you really do need in a team. You can't just have everyone thinking about the future. You need people that can actually do stuff and people that can get the most out of other people. And anyway, it's a really good exercise, and I would do it again.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the words within the categories. So you mentioned the 34 strengths in 4 categories. You got executing, influencing, relationship building, and strategic thinking. So within executing, some of the words are really interesting. Like, one of the strengths is restorative. I was like, that's never a strength that you would identify.
Yeah, but when you read it, it's
personally, I would never identify and go, that person's really good at, restorative thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously it's identified that as unique enough to be one of the 34 within that category of execution. And whenever I've done something like this, when you do get that summary and you see that person's position on the heat map, always you go, yep, that's right. Don't you? You go, that makes perfect sense for that individual. And often they'll give an explainer, don't they, about that person hates this and this type of work, but loves this type of work.
Yeah,
it gives you the extra.
Yeah, like it's been quite telling for me. I am mine are green, which is strategic thinker, is like the one that I have the most of, and I have very little executor. Like almost none. Or certainly not in the top 10. And the blue ones are mostly about, not mostly about, but some of them are about people. And like empathy for me is my literal lowest strength. I have 35th or 34th strength is empathy.
Wow.
And my wife is the complete opposite. Me and my wife did it together, and it was like awesome because we are complete opposite quadrants, like completely different people.
Yeah.
It's a really cool exercise, and again, it's not to say that is who you are, but I can say I did the assessment 12 years ago, and I did it again 2 months ago, and my things are almost identical. There is one in the top 10. There is just 2 that have kind of shifted places a little bit, but it's virtually the same.
That's wild.
Yeah,
that's wild. One other thing I want to pick up on is our final topic, and is around trust. You speak about it quite a lot in your LinkedIn posts. Just talk to me about how you view trust in a business context and its importance.
So I think all relationships at some way, maybe one of the foundational pillars. On the spot, I couldn't think of the other ones, but trust for me in my little world, the way I view the world, I think trust is maybe the only pillar that, if I had to break all the other ones and just lean on one, it would be trust. I think if you're a business leader, if you manage a team, if you're a business owner that has people that report to you and they have people that report to them, like at some point you have to let go of stuff and give and have trust in other people. And especially for us, like we have a business like this where I'm sat here with you and we have to keep moving really fast. I have 100% faith in Nick. Nick can guard into the universe and do whatever he needs to do. And I trust he'll make the right decisions for us. And you don't have to trust people, but to find people that you can trust is super important. And I've gone through this learning curve before Wolf, and before kind of my other company, D-Box. I had other co-founders and we really did eventually just break down because of a lack of trust. And I was told, actually, funny enough, we all did the Clifton Strengths thing, and I worked with a consultant, and he said at some point you're going to ask everyone to trust you, and they won't. They won't, and that's exactly what happened. Like literally 18 months later. So trust is a massive, massive thing for me. It's also I think maybe for me more importantly because I've got low empathy. You know, it may sound ridiculous saying out loud, but I have low empathy. So trust for me is like at the most important things because I find it very difficult to relate to feel something the way you do. So trust to me is super, super important.
Yeah.
But I think it should be important for all business owners because if you can trust everyone around you, you can give up the reins, and have people run as fast as they can.
Do you start people at 100% trust or do you start them at 0?
That's a good question. That's a great question. I think you have to default to 100 first. Do I do that in practice? I would like to think you default to 100. I think you have to. What do you think?
Well, you talked about your wife and you being very different. This is where me and my wife are very happy about the fact that we're completely different.
Yeah.
She starts people at 0 and I start people at 100.
Yeah.
So a builder will come around and quote on the work and I'm like, guy seems legit. Bella's like, no, 0.
Yeah.
And what's perfect is that, halfway is 50 and we centralize each other in a really nice way. But I've always started people at 100 and it's there until it's not there, until you've shown me a reason why I shouldn't trust you. And just a naturally positive, optimist, glass is overflowing type person. And it's got me in trouble a few times because I will see people through rose-tinted glasses. But I was just interested in whether or not, other people will start at 0, 100, and whether or not you need it to be earned. Yeah.
I think unless you have a gut feeling about someone that it should be at 0. Again, Nick and I do this a lot. You'll meet with someone and he'll say, or we'll say like, what's the gut feeling? And if you just don't have if you don't feel like you can trust someone, then I think I'm probably like, it's like a binary. If I feel like I can trust you, it's 100%. Right. And if I don't feel like I can trust you, it's not 50. It's like, it's at 0.
Carry on. Yeah. I always think about the opposites. And, you were saying trust is the most important thing because of all the positives that it gives you. And, what's the flip side? It's the fact that you don't trust someone. And so that is an incredibly damaging thing to have in a work relationship.
Yeah.
And yet there'll be people listening, I imagine, that go, yeah, it's kind of important, but think about the other side of it. What does it mean that you don't trust them? What's it stopping you from being able to do? I think they do this when they set laws. I don't know how much you know about this stuff. I might be completely wrong on this, but they don't talk about it as though, yeah, but only 1 or 2 people are going to break that law. So we don't need a law for it. They consider it by saying, what if everybody did that? What if everyone drove at 100 miles an hour? What if everybody walked around with knives or, whatever that thing is? They always go, what's the most extreme? Because the law isn't about the few, it's about the maximum. So trust, distrust is a small thing, but what if it's a big problem?
I mean, maybe there are environments where you or me, a business someone who owns or runs a business, maybe you don't need to trust someone 15 rungs, I don't like those words, but 15 levels down. Maybe that's a trustless relationship. It's nothing to do with you. It's the trust between them and the person above them. And by virtue of you trusting the one that reports to you, that sort of thing filters down. But maybe there are environments in a business where you can have it's a trustless environment. I don't think that's the case for Wolf. Definitely not. We're working at such a fast paced, small startup. You're with these people all the time. Yeah, I think trust. Yeah, again, but I hear you. I don't know if you have a good answer to that. I think that's a very valid point.
I think these are great, just pondering topics. I think for anyone listening that hopefully is joining the dots, as you often do with a podcast, between what you're listening to and then your own life. If there's anybody in the team we go, I don't fully trust that person, I would suggest that's probably a sign of something bigger that's worth investigating.
Yeah, our intuition's quite good though.
Exactly.
I think our intuitions are quite good. I don't think humans are built to distrust everybody. I think we innately want to trust people, which is why I think we cluster around football teams and religions and workplaces and the same uniform. I think that stuff breeds trust. And maybe to your point, maybe me and you are just incapable of going somewhere in the middle. We just at 0 or 100. Again, maybe that's what Clifton will tell you. Maybe we don't have the things that let us go 55% trust.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Super interesting. Hey, I want to continue, and I think it'd be really cool to have you back on in another year's time, and watch Community Wolf grow for another chapter. But thank you so much. It's been incredibly insightful listening to your whole story and your view on the world.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. That was an epic conversation.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Behind the SME. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It really helps others find the show. If you want to get in touch, you can find our email in the description. Until then, keep building, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.